We are officially live. We are officially live. Oh no, echo!
I was going to say it's officially echoing.
With a delay.
All right, I fixed the echo.
So has everybody seen a giant green button?
A couple times I'm just sitting here watching. I've all of a sudden gone black for like 2 seconds, and then I'm back up on the steps. Like right now, happened again.
Huh.
That's what you're doing, Zach. I blame you.
No. I've already disconnected twice tonight. That's a record for the entire evening. Did everybody take new update? Maybe it's not very good.
And then maybe it's me. Maybe I need to reboot or something. I am having trouble understanding you, Zach. Can you understand me, Marty? When you're talking.
I can understand him, but it does sound a bit tin canny.
Let me I'm gonna switch more to my house.
Boy,
have you turned on the speaker mode or whatever?
What? Oh yeah, I can do that. Is that better or just louder? Better? Bueller?
It's sort of better. You were breaking up with me, not just tin canny, but breaking up. That might be me, maybe.
It could be my network because I've disconnected twice. Different network.
I think I would agree with the choppy assessment.
Oh, okay.
I'll be back.
You're hearing it choppy too, right, Marty?
What? Say that again, Scott?
You're hearing it choppy?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
How about me when I'm talking?
You're fine.
No, not really.
Okay. Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Yeah, it's funny that on the Quest, the register button is the entire screen, but on the PC, it looks normal.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, I was going to ask you what you're seeing on the big screen on the Quest.
Just one giant register button.
Well, I see Eventbrite, part of a picture, free, and then register.
Okay, yeah, that's more accurate. Okay. That's about what I see.
Yeah, actually, the screen looks fine to me. Last time I was in here, though, the screen was completely black, and I had to exit and come back in.
What are you experiencing it on?
Just a Vive.
There's no just a Vive. Vives are cool.
Oh. Well, the kids get a good set.
I need to replace one of my batteries. This is the problem with the Quest.
Okay, now I'm trying to remember who Nanoseed is.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Martin. Hey, Tom. I forgot I was on mute for a second. I'm Brock.
Sounding
better? Hey, Brock.
So far, you sound better, Zach.
Okay. This is a 5 gigahertz network.
Hey, Zach.
Less,
you sound better, Zach.
Less people interfering, but weaker signal. Hey, now the page looks good. What does it look like for everybody else?
On my Quest, it still says register free Eventbrite, bottom to top.
But a giant register covering half the screen?
Yep.
Yeah, all
Not
you
for me.
do is change your Wi-Fi network, and then it looks right. Easy.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
Can you see it scrolling?
Yep,
Yep.
I can.
No.
I'm on Quest, by the way.
Log out and come back.
Yeah. So, Scott, there's a special button. If you go to your triangle menu and then settings, almost dead center is re-enter room.
Oh, I like it.
Try it.
Re-enter?
Yeah.
Don't we all wish we could do that at parties?
Yep. I can reset the whole room too if it really gets out of hand. So there.
I'm still seeing big register.
Yeah, that's what happened for me too. I have no idea how to fix it. Oh, I do know how to fix it. Just change your Wi-Fi network. That's what I did. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I could do that.
So it's anything like with really interactive stuff does poorly in alt space, like this event. When we get to the actual content from slides.com, it'll work good.
So you were saying that would fix the giant green button?
I've not seen it before on Eventbrite, but what is happening when we enter the room, sometimes we see a normal layout and sometimes we see a green button that's half the screen. Is that what the stream is seeing?
No, the stream is seeing the normal layout.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with resolution or something like that, because I just re-entered the room and I still see the giant green button in the headset.
Well, I changed my Wi-Fi network and re-entered the app, and I don't see it.
Wait, are you guys on Vive or Quest or what?
I think we're all Quest.
Marty and I are
Yeah.
on Quest.
Yeah, I'm
Me
a
too.
Vive.
Okay.
I'm
It
gonna
was
go
been
do
super.
to change your Wi-Fi. You had to like get out of Quest, right? Or you had to get all the way.
Yeah, that was more of a joke. The
okay.
web stuff in here is super non-deterministic. Like even the Microsoft professional events struggled with it. So
Okay. And you're going to be
So
using
you
a
can
different tool.
you can monkey around, or you can just not worry. It'll be good when the slides start.
I trust you
Let's hope.
emphatically.
Yeah. So they had pre-recorded videos, and then like 20 minutes in, some people would lose sync with the video, and then sometimes the entire video stream for everyone would crash. It was really neat. I hope some budget comes out of that to shore it up.
So I've got just a procedural question which I had last time and I never figured out. How do I tell what time it is?
Above your triangle menu or below. Just don't point at it too much. And Scott, you're in the ground.
There we go, below it. Yeah, sure.
You're in the ground, so if you click your left stick, you'll get taller.
Click my left stick trigger.
Nope, the stick itself. Click it in. Yep. Yeah.
Sweet.
So that's one of the big secrets of alt space. Anytime you change position in real life, it has no clue what to do. So like if you go from standing to sitting, you'll either go on the ground like Marty, or better yet, while you're sitting, you recenter, and then you stand up and you go, whoops, ouch. You go like this. You can fly until you start flapping your arms. Everybody's thinking about it. Or you can just...
It's not working for me.
If I had more space. Yep, real good.
Okay.
I don't think you're flapping hard enough, Scott.
So yeah, that's
That is
alt space.
fascinating.
Went to a concert and saw advanced alt space emoting. I guess you can watch your own feet. It's kind of weird. Same trick works for moving along the ground. I'm plugged in, so I can't do it. But if you want to go outside, go to one end of your play space and then use a joystick or teleport to walk against the wall, and then in your play space, walk straight through the wall. And that should work. Oh, I forgot to go to one end of your play space, recenter by clicking your stick.
Right,
and then
right.
you walk through the wall. So, but you can also, there's good teleport targets in here too. They're hard to hit. Let's see, I gotta start higher. This is not the best place to do teleporting. Oh, no. I can't do it.
Teleport onto that rotating ceiling fan. That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's really strange for moving objects. Alt space can't move you, but it can move things out from underneath you.
Wait a minute. You're doing a David Copperfield over here.
Yeah. I'm trying to get to the rafters. There's legitimate targets on top of them.
Oh, yep. I've done that a couple times.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Hey, Tom. What's up?
Hey.
Be real careful.
You know, in the internet days, I never got into chat rooms.
There it is.
Probably because there was like a scroll feed
Oh, I'm on the
of
stage.
text of too many people in the room, and then what you were
Yeah.
trying to pay attention to would like scroll away too fast, and you'd have to scroll back, and like it was very inorganic.
Yep. This is
But-
very natural, very nice. You can have sub conversations.
You can
Yeah.
actually, when I first logged into this room, I was like, wait a minute, there's a person to my right. You're physically, or at least Descartesian physics, to my right. And that's totally different than a chat room.
Yep. It's just like real life.
Well, I feel like I do know you or should know you. And I feel like an idiot if I did. And reality is now virtual. So it makes all
Yeah.
things weird.
Well, avatars
Cool.
can only get so close, right?
Cool, but weird.
Yeah.
Well, here's me trying to make it not weird. Tom, who are you?
Hello.
What's your deal?
Well, I'm so I do head up another VR group. We're going to be having a talk next Tuesday on 360 videos and incorporating in VR experiences. So if you're
Really?
interested in that, yeah, just search on.
Wait, in 1 week you're doing what? Clarify.
It's me, and I don't know if you know who Chris Black is, but we're going to be going over. It's just going to be a Zoom meeting, so it'll be purely online only.
Okay.
And we're going to go over. It's going to be a two-part. So the first part is just going to be talking about how to capture 360 videos and going over the equipment and how to stitch and how to store your videos, that kind of thing. And then the next part
Cool.
will be more on incorporating those 360 videos into more interactive VR experiences, that kind of thing. So yeah,
That's
if you're
pretty cool.
interested, just search on VR Meetup Minneapolis, and you'll find it. I just posted it yesterday.
All right, one more time for the invalid. I go to where on meetup.com.
Meetup.com. Just search on Minneapolis VR. You'll find it.
Oh, okay.
So
You've
how
got
about
other
you?
meetings, right, Tom?
I do. There's an augmented reality that's going to be next week Thursday as well, and we're going to be doing the Unity AR Foundation is what we're covering there. So, and Marty's going to be helping with that. So,
Yeah,
hope.
Marty's awesome. Martin
Where
kicks
did you
ass.
use? Where'd you used to have your physical meetings when you were still having physical meetings?
it was kind of a small community room at Think Bake in Bloomington.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
usually about
I haven't
a dozen
been to one,
people,
but I've
so-
been wanting to come.
Yeah. So
He's a
hopefully we
regular,
can start
Brock.
doing that. Hopefully we can start doing that soon again. They've been keeping it closed because of COVID, but we'll see.
Well,
So how
see,
about
you're
you?
doing it virtual now.
What's your deal, man? I told you all about myself. So.
I am a multiple tree branch person that would love that all the things that I care about manifest in a way that other people can see easily. But guess what? A whole lot of fruits on a lot of branches.
Yep.
Takes a while to make that grow. I don't know how to better describe what the hell I'm going through in my personal life. Currently, I've been trying to find the best way to be a one-man team to make VR content and tell stories. And
Sure.
that's a challenge to go. It took me 3 months to get to a point where I'm like, all right, what can I do as a one-man team that doesn't take a lot, that I can actually do in a time frame that doesn't make me insane? And I've come up with my plan is, all right, I know there's 175 other things that I want to do, but what can I start with? So my point is, how do I use every part of the buffalo when it comes to making 3D assets, and then leveraging the actual natural skills that I have as a human being? So I'm a vocalist. I sing, and I can write a lot of things. I'm a writer. I tell stories. I love VR because it's basically like, how do you take from your brain, your mind, whatever that mystery is, how do you pluck a thing that you see out of your brain and then utilize technology to share that thing that you've experienced for other people. And it's like, how many of those are a waste of time, and how many of those are a fun interactive experience to where like people get on board? And
Yeah.
I hate having to have that conversation with myself all the time. And guess what? I have no team, so the only conversations I have besides here, the only conversations I have are with myself because of circumstances.
Yeah, it definitely helps to have that second person, even if it's just to bounce ideas off of.
If you're really asking me all the, I don't know where you're at, because I don't know you enough. But the 10,000 hour rule, have you heard of it?
It sounds familiar, but I don't recall what it means. So
Well, if
go
you're
ahead,
a creator of
refresh
any
me.
kind, or didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you're a creator of any kind, or a generator of ideas of any kind, of whatever, well, are you a painter? Are you a sculptor? Are you an architect? Are you a mathematician? Are you a physicist? Whatever. I found out that my 10,000 hours have already been spent opening up a laptop and geeking out about electronic music in Ableton.
Very cool.
That's my easiest, easily I have at least 10,000 hours in constructing melodies and sonic territories.
Sure.
And I'm also a vocal actor, but I have not really engaged enough with that talent in myself. And I'm trying to find a way to merge. What do I already have a familiarity with? And I'm very excited about VR. I went to college to learn game design and 3D modeling, which you could learn without going to college, but apparently I felt the need to have the structure of a college
That's great.
curriculum to do that.
Mhm.
And I did that, graduated with honors, and now my college doesn't exist because private colleges for art, wow, what a weird state that is, to find out the kind of money you get loans for and try to do all this stuff for. You'd be like, well, where else is my life going? And then you find out, oh, wait a minute, you actually have the opportunity to learn how to use 3D modeling and texturing and animation and rigging and everything. But, well, yeah, I got that I could learn that from just clicking the right links on YouTube. But there was something very special about being social amongst other people to learn how to do that technique. That's one of the few things that I didn't already know.
Yeah, that's cool.
That sounds like I didn't realize how that came off. It sounds pretentious. There's a
No,
infinite realm of things I don't know.
Yeah.
But when it came
So-
to telling a story, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. I was just going to ask because I was still trying to understand the 10,000 idea, 10,000 hour. Does the 10,000 hour?
Malcolm Gladwell is a studier of why did the Beatles become famous? Why did this company become successful? How did that all happen? When you see, I don't know what a better term is, but the rocket to success of somebody that was unknown before. If you actually look under the hood of somebody that was just, 2 years ago, nobody heard of them. And then over a period of time, there was something that happened to where that person just skyrocketed to success. And it's like, oh, that person came out of nowhere. It's like, no, they didn't come out of nowhere. They came out of, I care about this thing, and I cared about it so much to the detriment of, probably a sacrifice of my life. To where I'm
Sure.
yeah, sure, all that's cool, but this thing is my passion, and I go to that. And you do that enough. And apparently, and to be frank, I never read Malcolm Gladwell's literature. I only know about that guy based on this concept. So I'm kind of talking out of my, maybe not my ass, but maybe my belly button. I'm talking out of my belly button.
But I mean, the concept is simple, right? If you
Right.
look at someone who's real successful, you might mistakenly think that they just did that overnight and they got lucky, but the reality is there was a lot of hard work behind it. There was
Absolutely. That's what the whole based on what I know about the text, Malcolm Gladwell illustrated that the Beatles didn't just spring out of nowhere. They actually had a what do you call it, a residency at a German pub, to where the band, they just went there and did the thing that they did a lot, over and over and over again.
They had a
and
lot
they
of
did it over and
practice,
over and over again enough.
Right. Very cool.
I just went through just last week. I was watching some videos about like what do Beatles know about music theory, and guess what? Just like my own organic experience of musical expressivity as a platform of, well, just expressing yourself in general. I watched that video after being a fan of the Beatles, and like, who? I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's people on the planet that aren't a fan of the Beatles, whatever. But if you dive into the concept that, hey, guess what? They didn't study music theory. They weren't professionally trained at Juilliard or any of these other kind of institutions in Cambridge and whatever. And yet you realize, like, yeah, well, the Beatles had like a feel for music, and they created what they were, what they are, whatever. I have a personal experience to where I study what's out there and also study what's in here.
Yeah.
It's a weird what's the word I'm looking for? There's probably an Italian word or a Greek word or something that's I don't know what it is. If you have the creative spirit inside yourself, is my hand here? Can I?
Nope.
There you go.
There you go.
Inside
you got, Andy.
yourself. I'm getting used to the actual interactivity of
Should be
VR.
permanent now.
Hey, Scott.
The other
Zach.
Scott.
I'm on the
I'm able to get in.
5.
So now, is
If
your
you-
music out there somewhere that I could listen to it, or?
Have you heard of SoundCloud?
I have. I guess I haven't really used it much, but it's out there. Just search on your name, or what do I search on?
No, I haven't.
I think we're gonna learn.
If
The
you
last minute,
look into the
notification
world
gets
of the vacuous abunditude,
Well,
That's not a word. Is that a word?
But
Sounds
the
good.
abundance, abunditude.
It's like
If you look into the world of all kinds of stuff, like and I do often.
Oh, that's new.
SoundCloud is the most available access point of artists that you may or may not have heard of that are just like, hey, I don't
That
have
sounds
a
right.
contract with any record label. I don't have like limit your experience with this internet social experience. SoundCloud is it should be what it sounds like.
Like what?
I'm still trying to find out what exactly it all means. But my
Blue.
musical
Yeah.
project that at least like the most volume
ask
of my
you, are you-
material
are you
is
a clone of
available
Scott
toward is Fur Coat, as an FIRCOAT. If you look on
It's you
SoundCloud-
with a beard right now.
I've got a lot of material,
Yeah.
not enough.
Well,
I mean,
got that-
to be honest, I've got
girl hair, so you look
probably
like-
2 days worth of audio listening that are sitting on the back burner of shit that I gotta
But it is sort of funny
make
that you're-
happen in a real sense to other people that like, hey, you do a thing? How do I get it? And I'm like, well, I'm very confused about a lot of like what it means to be a creator and how do you monetize that.
Sure.
And I'm also very
now
interested
does
in VR.
SoundCloud
and how
allow
to
you to
integrate that.
monetize?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, does
No,
SoundCloud allow you to
the-
monetize? Or?
Push the
Best knowledge that I have is that if you aren't an actual like Aphex Twin, have you heard that artist?
Floating over the step.
Not really.
If you push the joystick,
Or-
like, physically, like,
I don't know who to grab out of a glance point of like you can be a rock band with, you know, a 6-piece, 7-piece, you know,
oh, okay.
who's available to make music and who's your band. You could be that guy or you could be a band and then
Sorry, if
present
you can hear me.
what
It's
your-
like a really bad
Andy.
connection.
the Vive.
There, that what button? What button did you just touch? It did
I
something.
just hit recenter on the menu.
Did you hear me at all?
Yeah.
I had a really bad connection.
you
there
said
for
you had a
moment.
bad connection.
Yeah.
So there's some.
So
something
I
for
didn't
that,
quite hear
but,
what you were asking.
Yeah.
Essentially, Altspace can't handle it.
Well,
like computers
SoundCloud can exist
or
for
walk
a
around
single
your play
artist
space
that
and you have
makes
to recenter
electronica, or a full band that just presents themselves
But the,
as we're a
the upside of
project
that,
and
though,
we
is
produce
if you
this
say,
track or several
recenter
tracks or a full album or
and then
whatever.
move without
And you
recenter,
can be a
go like
free
this.
user of SoundCloud, which is fine and great. You can also pay SoundCloud to help
Yeah.
promote
Well,
what
it's
you
off
are
your walls,
as
too,
a
if you-
group
if you
or
move around
music
your play space.
project.
Although Marty said
Zach.
But
it
can
might break
can you also
your view.
sell your stuff on SoundCloud
That's
so
on a
people
Quest,
pay
right?
for your music?
What I
kind of thing?
understand
What's it?
is that because
What?
it's called
What?
SoundCloud, is that it's basically a volume of metric availability. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So SoundCloud avails
Oh, that's not
you
good.
to, if you want
It's a plugin.
to, just have one track, put a little icon next to it, and it has a thing, and people can comment while they
That's what
listen to
mine's
your
doing.
track. They can comment at like, "Oh my God, right here, this build that was awesome." And timeline-wise, in the track, they can put a comment, and their user identity literally tracks where that is in the track, and you can actually find other people that are like, I was into the intro, that's cool, but they didn't comment on that. And then they finally comment
I
on the part
always-
that builds,
I
and
always
then
charge
something
just before,
happens,
you know,
and you can
I go
actually,
on,
and guess what?
and I'm always
Any
dead, like,
person,
right at the
you
end
don't
of
have to be a
the
musician to be a member of SoundCloud. You can be a listener that enjoys that, and you connect with
It's not
a
working.
track, or, and just like all the,
how fast does it normally
no,
discharge?
you know what? Not just like, different
so
than
one of the
all the
things
social
is if,
medias, but
you're
similar
stressing it
to,
out too
hey,
much, it
I
can
have a
actually charge
profile
while you
and
play.
I can connect
You
to
can
things that I like, and I can like it as a button. I can favorite as a
You up
button,
your super
and I can
sampling,
interact
right?
as
So
a
maybe
button.
put that back
And
to
then when I
default.
interact, it's time stamped
There's
into when I heard that thing that the
menu
artist was
settings,
doing with their track.
menu
I can
settings,
timestamp the fact that
display.
like right here. Oh my
I'm at
gosh,
1.6,
the thing that you did with this
1.4.
music blew me away. That's very interesting to me.
Sure. And then are people rated? Like, is there like a
What are we
top
talking about changing,
performer
Zach?
out there kind of thing? I mean, does it have a rating system?
I think we've always used 1.6, so that's
You're
triangle
asking the
menu,
right questions.
settings,
Guess
display.
what? As an artist, somehow I
Which of the
didn't
Windows
ask those
under
questions.
display for
I-
anti-aliasing?
Open world render scale.
Because
Well, it was
I would think that
1.4,
if
but
you were
it's
like a
cut it down to
top,
0.1.
if you're rated top,
Yeah,
say in
1.4 is the
SoundCloud,
default.
that you would have people coming after you
Let
for
me look at my
contracts
battery.
and that kind of thing, and in that way it could be sort of
Oh, maybe that
a
was
way
the
to
default. I don't
monetize, or
remember.
at least a
I'll be right back.
way
You
to establish
are
a
I
connection.
absolutely
tried
correct.
multiple times.
You are absolutely correct.
So how do I
Tom.
look at my battery while I'm in Altspace?
Yep.
That is
You gotta-
absolutely what
you gotta
happens
have your
to
Octus
the
menu
people
and
that
exit for a
use that
second.
mechanism to market themselves properly. Guess what? There's this whole other category of people.
Oh,
You're
that-
obligated.
They
to
just
do
make
it,
music
you know?
because they like making music. They're not trying to target a
Yeah, I'm
market.
down to
They're not
75%
trying
too. I
to
was
become
about
successful
30,
financially.
so
They just make music.
I don't like
And
this new
they don't know
Altspace
how
update.
else to
We're all
reach
gonna
people
die.
that have never heard of them before.
Yeah.
SoundCloud is a delivery system that does do what you said. Exactly what you said. They do that. But guess what? There's a whole bunch of other people that create music that's like, this is what I do. I don't know what else to say to you other than I do this, and I could go ahead and hoard it keep it
near you.
from everybody.
You
Be like, oh, I just do this for myself because of my own pleasure.
He's got a desktop.
Guess what?
With some weird OS that breaks
It's
Windows.
probably like
When it's
75%
on the
of
computer.
what I do for my music. I don't know how else to defend myself other than I love the art of creativity. I don't care where it comes from or
Yeah.
how it
So
manifests.
What are you using
I am
right now?
obsessed with human manifestation of their own creativity.
What about
So, if you're a chef or an architect or a mathematician and you decided in your lifetime that it was worth it to you to, instead of like, oh, I'm just going to go work for some advertising company to make me a bunch of dollars because I could do that. It's like, you know what? I'm not saying like you're bad. I'm not saying like, oh, you effed up or you're not doing it right. That's not me. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying every time I try to go in that direction, I'm like, yeah, but what I really want to do is just be a creator. I just want to manifest my own creative spirit. And I'm crazy.
Yeah,
I know I'm
Anything
crazy.
that I'm low,
But
plug in,
I
and then
love the
just
fact
fine
that
for
it's
hours.
available to people now, which wasn't before, that you can be creative and find your audience. Maybe it's niche, maybe it's totally not specific, and maybe it's not big culture, pop culture, whatever.
But maybe it's
But
like Zach said,
if you're a
you got
creator
something
and you
new
do
to-
this thing and it
Kinda
makes
better
you
now.
excited, like the reason you do it is because it's exciting to just
Yeah.
make it
We'll drop
be
it.
real. You take.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to
Yeah,
use
you
VR.
got another app running in the
Oh
background.
shit! I teleported past you.
That's all right.
I was just flicking on
I
buttons.
can turn it on. That's fine.
If you have a creative spirit and the explosion of it manifesting. Wait a minute! It's 7:06. This is cool,
Yeah.
Tom. I'm glad we had this
Oh, well.
conversation.
Yeah, mine's holding steady
Voting.
since I plugged it in.
Yeah,
79%.
otherwise it'd
There's
be
other-
really
there's other
boring
people
staring at
tuning
the
in.
screen, right?
My hands are definitely rotating.
Hey, other
Like
Tom.
real hands.
Hi. Are you hanging out? Do you want to be a part of the conversation? Please join us. This is VR. You can totally do that. You can be like, "Hey, I'm into this."
But
If you want
I mean,
to.
why do you want it to look good?
Never mind.
Why don't you want it to look like this? But this.
I try to be socially flexible in VR,
That's-
especially.
that's
Yeah, Tom, I can hear you.
Just wait. Now they're
Oh
gonna
crap! I
unwind.
can't hear Tom.
There they go.
He's just really quiet. Yeah.
I've only got one like
Can you yell
hand
louder? Does that help?
wing thing.
Oh, now I can hear you. Oh crap! Maybe I should have put
The,
headphones
the
on.
other thing is that if
Yeah.
you come closer
works.
to us, it'll be louder for us.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Can you target teleport? There you
There
go,
we go.
dude. Shake. There we go. Shakies. Hey, other Tom.
three-way shake.
I'm using
I don't mean to
Oculus Go.
Use that. Sorry. Oh,
Oculus
go.
Go.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just a one-handed, one controller only. So.
That's all you need.
Well, welcome to the conversation. I hope I'm not interrupting
Emails
anyone
from
else.
everybody
'Cause
else's crap.
I think that's how this kind of VR chat can work.
Yeah.
And also, dude, I
feel like
totally
this is
realize
like
I'm
the
not
game you
normal.
played as yourself.
I really very much recognize
Oh,
I'm not a normal person.
courage. Yeah, that's
I-
exactly right.
am a creative tree to where a lot of people in the world, as what we understand is constant, says, "Hey, pick a lane, dude. Hey, you can't just learn 3D graphics and animation and modeling. If you're into music, you got to go down that music road." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm poor. I can't hire other people
Well-
to do 3D animations and graphics and things that I
Some of these
imagine.
people, yeah.
I'm just too poor to be able to do that." Even though, oh, what? He's
I'm
got
only pointing fingers.
one controller option. Pew, 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 pew. By the way, I'm a unicorn because of the paradox of reality. I both love and hate the circumstances that I'm in permanently, all the
Being
time.
attacked by a child.
It's awesome and it sucks.
Real life.
And
Yep.
if you get to the point of the human condition experiment, I think you've got to get to the Zen point where you're like, yeah, all the things I can dream are impossible because I have no money. I can't hire 72 people to help me make this vision happen. But I can see it completely and clearly to its final point. But it's like, yeah, but that final point only exists in your imagination. I've got to live with that all the time, every day,
Battery's still
and
locked at 79%.
find a way to
They're using
target
the,
myself to
your-
where
the
my
unit
efforts
battery
on
or
life
something.
are not wasted.
Probably, for all I know.
I think as long as you're pursuing your passions, none of it's wasted. You know,
Exactly.
you're only going to get better at what you're doing.
Probably Linux.
So
But
it's
I
awesome.
also want to create an, I don't know what the best term is, but maybe make a boat.
Oh, man.
I want to make a ship that can travel the waters of who fucking knows.
I've gone down a
But I don't want there to be holes in it, because guess what? I went to college with a whole lot of really talented people, and
5 minutes ago.
almost none of
I
them,
wonder if there's like a tipping point.
basically none of them actually got jobs in the thing that they
You
got
can
educated
do
to
this
do.
logged in if you
With
want.
3D
It's when you join the
animation
same
and
room that
modeling
one
and
gets kicked
rigging
out.
and
But
texturing and everything. Oh, the whole game. And it's Minnesota.
yeah, that's a good idea.
And guess what? Minnesota
Yep.
is awesome, but geography doesn't mean anything when it comes to creating a.
So, Gav, have you tried hand tracking on your Quest?
what do you call it?
Yeah.
A digital experience good
There's
With my batteries
if
died
what
on my,
the end product is to
Oh, yeah.
share with people.
there's a
It's
free
a
demo in the
digital
store called Elixir.
experience
It's
good.
the same one we did at the
Like
conference.
your
Yeah, we
product
did it at
that
the
you
conference last time.
download or buy or
It's
interact with or whatever. If
What do you
what
say?
you
There's-
interact with is digital,
It's kind of this witch
it has nothing to do with a
workshop
person
theme,
being
and you
there,
get
an actual physical
transparent
body
hands and
being like, "Hey, welcome to
you know,
this
like demon. Or
space."
my very favorite is octopus.
We're in this exact
They actually have
example.
tentacles instead of
We are
fingers.
in it.
They're physical. They like
We are
things and you
interacting
can
in the
stretch them.
exact body.
It's a
This
discipline
experience
effect.
we're having, well, maybe
I can so. I can so.
Which I was surprised.
you mentioned it earlier now. Down. Anyway, the point being, if the end result is how does a human
So, Andy, I didn't hear
experience
what you
the
said.
thing that is the story or the novelty, whatever the novelty is,
I think you're muted.
where do
I
you
think
go?
Andy's praying.
Or how do you rely on?
Andy, talk.
Oh,
Good talk,
only
Andy.
Silicon
Andy,
Valley
big
can
talker.
create interactive
Talk.
media, or even if you're talking about like Bethesda or Naughty Dog or
I
some
can't hear you.
big third AAA title company, like this happened to me when I was graduating, and I saw a bunch of 19-year-old, 21-year-old graduating from the same college
Yeah,
I did.
yep.
I was the oldest
I know
person in my class, being like, "Oh, I always thought that college was worthless, and they weren't going to teach me the things that I wanted
Don't
to
hear
know."
you, Andy.
And
Talk better.
Minneapolis
Andy,
Media
be quiet.
Institute sprung up in Minneapolis, and I was all,
Can't hear
okay.
you.
It took 2 years to
Yeah.
decide to do that, to go to college, to get into debt, to learn things. And like,
He is praying. He's praying to the,
I still to this day am like,
Praying to the
I probably could have
microphone.
learned most, like
praying to the
80% of what I learned from going to college. I could have learned from
There
YouTube
we go.
for free.
There you are.
And the kind of
Well,
debt
that's
that I'm in
Yeah.
is kind of like This
I'm
model-
in the Vive Pro I right now.
So if
this
if you're on
model of
PC,
going to a
if your
private
window
college
uses
to
focus,
learn
it
something
won't be
because
after a while.
you live in Minnesota to have this
Okay.
knowledge. It all
I-
that kind of like breaks
I-
down
somewhere.
when you realize it's all.
Yeah, I've been using the mute button on my
You could learn a
Yeah,
lot of
circle.
things.
There are a
Action
lot more
circle thing here?
opportunities now
Yep.
to learn.
but for
all
some
kinds
reason
of
I lost my
places, so-
cursor at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, in the old days,
Welcome.
you had the public library, and now you got the internet, you got YouTube, you got, and it keeps changing and getting better and bigger and more platforms and online places to go. So yeah, it's very egalitarian in terms of spreading around the opportunity to learn and
Yep, jiggling them.
grow
We
and
used to do that
and be
2
creative.
years ago with the SGI.
Yeah, and there's definite benefits to the college experience. I think you said it before, just you needed that structure to just have that focus, which
I thought that was like,
is great. I say all of the above, do it all. Do college, do the YouTube videos.
Matt, you got sound?
I agree.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yep.
we
Sounds
can
good.
hear you.
Yep.
You hear
My
us?
instructors were awesome.
I can hear
The
you.
administration of what happens to
Yeah,
money
my-
was the thing that I was
my
having the
voice
most
is
problem
pretty
with.
good.
And we actually came to our
Since-
dean
Really?
at that college being like, "Hey, why did why did everything just increase in price?"
2.4 gigahertz.
We went to our
That's about
dean's
4 feet away.
office, and our dean
5 gigahertz.
literally
That's
sat
an
there being
entire
like,
house away. I guess it has less
"Oh,
interference.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Why don't you come
Couldn't
see
work.
my office? I don't have any answers for you, and I don't have any answer for you. No answers for you. You're making me feel uncomfortable about this whole scheme that we're using to take all your money that you don't even have because you're just a fucking
No,
student loan person.
They're now just
So,
two
Shut up and stop
three-
asking me
3 at
questions
night.
because I don't have any answers, and if I did have answers,
boyfriend's coming to
legally I
visit
couldn't
here.
answer you. And it's like, what? That's when 17 people go to your dean going like, "Hey, why did every single credit go up $200? Why did that happen?" And you go to your dean and you're like, "Why?" And they're like, "You're annoying. Go away. Go away. You're annoying. Annoying. Go away." And I'm like, "Wait, there's 17 of us in your office, and it's like, we get that we're annoying. We get you want us to go
Yeah, it was
away,
crowded
but
here for
you
a
don't have
while.
any answers for us." It's like, what the fuck?
Mm.
I graduated with honors, and it doesn't mean anything.
Springs.
I tried to apply
Girlfriend's
for
doing an internship out there, but
Not
they
like
were here.
entry level
Yeah,
at a
they had,
store level, but like at a
6
corporate
people in the
level
house,
Target
and they
job.
all-
Oh my.
That's what Target does. They rely on
That's what-
technology to have a third-party
Colorado Springs, what's-
selection process
Third degrees,
that they have no involvement in whatsoever.
No, sports.
They have minimal
rehab?
involvement
Kind of a
into having
weird
some
blend of
third
rehab
party
and
help them parse
recreation.
resumes.
Undergraduate college
So
roommate.
this-
That's
I forgot the name of the company.
started in
I wish I
geophysics,
remembered it.
which is-
Essentially, if you go to try to get like a corporate job because you have a bachelor's, you go to their job
wound up going into
or their job website application process, and
rehabilitation or something like that.
and I'm not trying to be
He's
an asshole or anything. I'm just saying, like, this is what the world we live in is. Especially for college graduates from some college that did exist but doesn't. If you have a college that existed but then got disbanded,
Yeah.
you got graduates who you actually have accredited degrees. I graduated with honors. Guess what? If I go to Target and I'm like, hey, I want a job that doesn't pay me like a minimum wage or whatever, $13.50 or $13 an hour, going to stock eggs on a shelf, I'm like actually trying to help you with what's the phrase? Entrepreneurship. When you work in a company and you have ideas that can actually
Yeah,
help
it's nice
them
there.
generate money,
My old
like,
bosses.
that should be valuable. If you go to
Lisa
that
was there, so I
company
go out
and
once a
you
year to
apply online
teacher
because
ed.
there's no other way to do it apparently,
Amazing hiking.
and
And,
their application process
yeah,
looks
good
at
place.
the colleges that you go to, and guess what? If your college shut down,
What's that?
you can't hit the next button.
Well, I haven't
You could
watched
put all
Optum
the
on Monday.
honors and graduate potential that you have and like what you know and what you can offer, and you get to that point and they're like,
No.
yeah, but
that's
your
good.
college doesn't exist, so your application means
yeah.
nothing. It's like, what the fuck?
In
I
the
still
last year, I haven't
owe
been doing any VR or anything there. So
student loan
no,
money to
this
the
other software
college I went
stuff
to,
that
and I'm
I
like,
initially acquired
everything
for
that's
in
I've gone through, I
2007.
spent 2 years literally being like,
This other company
I'm
bought
kind of
it,
terrified to go to
and
college
there was a
because it seems like a lot of
employee leasing
financial
agreement,
obligation.
But you can just
That's
picture
what
it
made
like
me
buying
kind of
cattle.
not go.
And
Then I go ahead
especially for
after
them,
2 years
got
of
paid by Optum,
you know
and then
flip-flopping,
the other company paid
waffling,
Optum.
and
And
finally
now
go,
we're moving it,
and then
keeping
I
employees, so
experienced the
the big bonus is one
reality that
calendar and one email
their
address and
own,
one
you know,
set
like,
of chat
well, of
tools.
course we gotta get people onboarded,
And,
we gotta get people enlisted
Yeah, I think it's
to
a good
this
place.
almost
Yeah,
militant
yeah.
plan
It's
of us
smaller.
raping you out
It's
of
like
your
1,000
dollars,
people, 700
which is
in the
like
US.
not what the people that are there doing that
so
are thinking,
It's a
but
it's a
that's what
stark
the
difference. It's
machine
like,
ultimately
how do I do
does.
this? Oh,
Is
you know,
that
Ken does it.
well, you can
Here,
pay a
let me
lot of
try
money
to do
for a
that. Hey, Ken,
really
look at
fancy
our
college.
previous conversation. He's like, okay, I can do that
You
in 2
know what?
minutes. I'll get back to you.
I've gotta
2 minutes later, it shows up and it's
deflate
done.
a little bit. I'm getting a little too hyped.
Whereas at Optum,
Did
it's
let
like,
me
how do
ask
you
you
do
this?
this?
Did you
You
feel
search
like
the
you
internet and
learned a
all the links are
lot
broken.
during those
And then
years
you
that
start
you
asking
were
people
attending
that
that
might do
college?
something with servers.
I
You know,
did,
like,
and the
you should
structure
ask this
of
person.
it
And
being
then,
a curriculum helped me.
they're
But
like, yeah, put a ticket
the kind
here,
of
and then
balance
the team
of
tells you,
financial
you don't do that.
investment
I'm
to
quiet?
ultimate
No,
gain,
I heard
that's
you
not a
say mic
part
test.
of the equation that makes any
It
sense.
sounded like it.
As far as a private college or, you know, Madison Media Institute,
Yeah,
Cumming
Scott's
Media,
quiet.
Minneapolis Media Institute,
That wasn't me.
and then
testing my
ultimately being like
You're
disbanded.
right here.
And I
Okay,
feel
so
blessed
sounds
that I
like
got
you-
my degree. There's a bunch of people that went
I've been
to,
eating, so I have
what
myself
the heck is
muted.
the St. Paul Music
Oh,
College
okay.
Because otherwise you'd hear
that
Yeah.
got shut down by absolutely corrupt mechanisms. Um, Crap, I forgot their name. How the hell did I do that?
We're gonna, we'll show up.
McNally Smith.
Just
McNally Smith was built on 2 dudes that were like, wow, you know what? A whole bunch of people want this knowledge, and we could create a mechanism to have this be profitable to us. And they somehow got in bed. I don't know what the right term is, but they got in financially romantic relations with the state or the city-state of St. Paul, to where they wound up getting a campus that was worth like $2.5 million for $1 or some crazy fucking equation like that. Like, how did that work out? It's like, oh, because they were rubbing elbows with somebody that was the right kind of condition of like, well, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't we want to have a whole bunch of college students come here and pay rent and buy
It's a
food
little
and
bit
be here in
challenging.
St.
We want to
Paul
test ahead of time.
or
Because
whatever?
Some things work the that web viewer and some
I
don't.
don't want to be all big sour.
YouTube works.
There's a bunch of people that came out of that college that were awesome, that
Yeah.
created bands and became business owners, and there's a lot of things that came out of that that's not like, oh my God. But when it all
Yeah.
came crumbling down, there were a lot of kids that were trying to get their degree, and
As a
also
physical distance.
that was their job to work on campus, like in the cafeteria, like dispersing food to other, attendees of the
Yeah.
college. That was their job to help them through the whole college experience. And when the college was like, oh, we've been discovered to be corrupt and we're just stealing a bunch of money
Mhm.
and this isn't really real. Like everything that everyone thinks is real, like we all kind of made it up and we got rich from it.
You gotta hold down the trigger.
All that kind of hits you hard as an art, especially if you're
Hold down both triggers.
artist. You're like, wait,
And then put your
hey,
thumb on top
I've
of the
met people that went to your college
But you
and they
need to
were
make it
like,
impressive.
they were enhanced from it. But in that year, there was so
The
many
top of the
people that
button
were
is
like,
capacitive.
well, now I can't finish
And
my
then if you
degree,
lift
and
up
I
the
can't
top
get my
trigger,
degree,
just
even
go
though
like
all this stuff is happening. Like, there's no way
If you
for
lift
me
up
to
your
have
thumb,
all the
it
money
goes to
that I
thumbs
spent up
up.
to this point mean something or manufacture a result. And I feel
Lembcke,
blessed
are
that
you in
my
2D
college
mode?
at least gave me my degree before they just went like,
Well, besides having your degree,
Okay.
you also have the, what you learned from that experience. And I
You are kind of
think,
quiet.
if you put enough resumes out there, just because Target didn't really
There's a
appreciate what you
microphone boost
had,
on
I'm
alt
sure
space you
there's
could try.
plenty of companies
above
that would appreciate
your
what you
mute
have
button.
to bring to the table. So that's the name of the game when it comes to trying to get a job somewhere, is just
Hey, you
push a
got
bunch of
it.
resumes.
Yeah.
That's the key. And then you'll just,
Have you also looked at
hopefully
Plus, we'll put you on
contracting?
microphone.
You know,
Yeah,
like
when
I've
you
done
present,
that
we'll put
where
you
I
on microphone.
contract for a while
So
before
with
getting
your
back into a
current headset,
full-time,
you can't see the
gig, you
content, or you
can-
can?
go through a contract house. Shorter gigs, but at least,
Okay.
you're getting out there. And, keep in mind, going through the
You're
official
gonna peek out at your
online
laptop.
application
slide down?
process. It's very
Okay.
difficult to get a job that way. But if you're networking and finding people that work at these places,
free register
they can,
schedule.
give you,
Do you see a giant button?
they can
Giant
give you a
green? A
referral.
giant green
That kind of
button
thing can help
upper
too.
Yeah.
So
corner.
We're all
it's
seeing
just a
different
matter
stuff.
of trying several different channels.
Same
Not
page,
just the
different
front
parts
door,
of it.
because the front door is meant to be a gatekeeper,
I can
right?
see the whole
So,
page. Like there's,
I think that's the
it has
key.
the
Is just
schedule.
keep making
about
connections,
VR HCI,
get more connections on
register button.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, you're seeing more
and
than
that,
us.
and
The like button and
the more people you
download
know,
button.
and the more,
What's your
because a lot
headset?
of people get jobs. It's
I'm on a
not
Rift S.
because it got
Okay.
published. It's kind of more word of mouth thing.
You got
So
on your Quest.
just keep that in mind.
It sees half
other,
of the page, or it sees a
other
giant green button
avenues
that covers
besides
most
just
of the
the-
screen.
because that
Really big green
it's
button.
very
You could switch to
depressing
link
and
probably
demoralizing when you're trying to
Yeah.
use their online
I think we should probably get
system
rid of
and
one.
you
then
don't get
probably
anywhere,
the
and
weird echo.
that's tough.
Yeah, you're not
That's what
echoing, you
happens
sound
relate to
good.
that.
Oh, that's
I
link
switched
mode
my-
that echoes?
When I use the link, Oculus Link,
Yeah.
on my Quest, I get a weird echo for some reason.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
whatever you do when you do
Yeah,
get
boy.
that job that you love, just don't stop
It's
with the
just
stuff
like
on the
the-
side too. Don't give up on that.
Thing, and I've got the same exact
Because
system.
It's
that's where
updating.
you're going to be able to have the most creativity, right? Because you have the full freedom
doing
to
the
do
three
whatever you
dots
want
over
to
and over
focus
again.
on. So
It might be updating.
Yeah,
keep doing
this
what
is-
you're doing
And
on
the-
that.
yeah, known to be unfriendly.
Stuff
That's
you're
one of
doing
the
on the
Hey, guess
side
key
what?
features
can
in
feed
Oculus
into
Rift.
everything.
You can hold updates.
I spent way too much time talking about my PS. What's up with you? And what's up with you?
Yeah, Tom.
Forgive me for doing a
Marty,
turn
he's-
order, but I talked to him first, and I want to talk to
Are
Hey,
we
you.
getting
Marty,
ready
your
to
body's
start?
dead over there.
Don't even get me
Can you
started.
hear us?
I hope so.
There it is.
No, I
Like
feel
just
like
a
an
couple days
a-hole.
ago, like
Consider
trying to
You
figure
ready to
out
go?
No worries, no
should I do
worries.
this presentation?
Actually wanted to have a
Discussion.
conversation with you
Oh,
guys.
Windows Update is broken again.
You're stuck in the floor? I think you're muted.
I am muted. Ha ha ha.
Yay!
Haha.
I think we're going to get started.
Lemke's,
But,
Lemke's having a seizure up on the mezzanine, I think. Not Lemke, I mean,
Hey,
Andy.
everybody, welcome. Thanks for showing up. We had some technical difficulties and some last minute changes, but we'll definitely get this happening and get some of the good socializing. One of the things I wanted to talk about real fast, because I didn't get any time, who can kind of brief us on the Apple AR kit stuff from Monday? Anybody watch the videos? Monday or Tuesday? I forget
It's
which day
pretty
that session's
light.
was.
They didn't really go over much.
Here, I'm
There's a
going to make you
few.
louder. You want to come up here? Talking to the camera
me?
robot? Yeah,
No.
you. Okay,
I
I'll
only
make you louder then.
bits and pieces of it, so
Whoops, that's a world editor.
maybe
I didn't-
slightly more than
I didn't
anyone else.
see any new updates. Like, what
It-
did you watch?
So, just the developer videos for the 2020 WWDC.
Right, but which like some ARKit specific ones, or
They basically just went over how they've, integrated the depth stuff from the iPad into like SceneKit and like their what is it? I can't remember the name of it. They have like a dedicated tool for doing AR content that's integrated with SceneKit and
like AR Composer maybe or something.
yeah, it's that tool. So that now supports the depth data from the LiDAR scanner on the iPad. And so it does occlusion now in the room. Like they had their demo was like, look at this couch and look at this couch behind the couch that's clipping the couch, kind of a thing. They were previously doing that with humans, right? It would recognize the silhouette of a human and it would do occlusion based on that. So now it's doing that using the depth data from the LiDAR on the iPad. And I'm guessing the next iPhone will have that same sensor. So then it will work with the phones as well. But they didn't talk about that at all. Other than that, there wasn't really a lot of new stuff. Like a lot of people made a comment that, there was a section that was like AR and VR, but there wasn't a lot of content in it. So, and a bunch of it was overviews of stuff that's already been kind of announced. And so it was just like, for people who weren't familiar with it yet, there was like, a short talk that kind of went over some details. But
I think you had mentioned world anchors, but at a large scale, like GPS and altitude.
So they have
Is that new?
official world anchors. I don't know if it's new, but they talked about it. I think it is new. They talked about their app clips, which is like you can, it's not specifically AR related, but there's speculation that it's in prep for AR kind of interactions, where it's basically you can have like a QR code or an NFC tag, and sort of like Android has instant apps, if anyone's familiar with those. It's sort of like in the same vein, where it's like a small, less than 10 megabyte app
widget
that instantly streams onto your device when you interact with a tag of some kind. And so like you could you could have one at a position outside of a restaurant or in a park, and you can just interact with your phone with your NFC, and then all of a sudden it'll give you this like app experience that's super fast. It doesn't require you going to the app store.
Yeah.
And the speculation is that when they roll out AR hardware, it'll work in concert with that. So you can have jumping off points where you're out in the world, you can scan a thing, and then it'll augment the experience with other content that's streamed directly in through that mechanism. And then it can install the full app, or it can go away, and then it kind of integrates into their whole ecosystem. So like if you were to order something, or if you wanted to see more content that required a payment gateway, it'll just use your Apple account, and that's all seamless at that point.
Yeah.
I think the only other observation that somebody made was that if you look at all the UI updates, they basically rounded off all the corners and kind of like adjusted all the spacing and everything. And a lot of people are saying that's also in prep for being more friendly to AR use.
Yeah.
So, but there wasn't an official stance from Apple on that. It was just kind of an observation that was floating around.
Anybody in the group here buy a LiDAR iPad?
Well, some people think sharp edges on stuff is like scary or like threatening in AR. So that's like a trend where all of those sharp edges are kind of being rounded off and becoming more friendly. Like if you look at all the stuff on the Quest, everything is round. There's not a sharp edge in any of the UI at all.
I figured that was more of a design choice than.
I think it is. It's obviously a design choice, but it also it's comfort related as well, I think. Again, that's just
Okay.
it was a conversation that of some people were having, and I don't know how I feel about that, but it was just kind of an interesting point.
Did anybody in the group here get a LiDAR iPad?
Yeah.
Anybody buy one? How much have you played with it? Have you scanned like rooms or?
Yeah, I played around with that a little bit. I'm hoping that there'll be some better software coming out for it soon, but right now it seems to be, not a lot better than the structure sensor, but hopefully it'll
There.
get better.
Made you louder.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I saw, it's got similar results for soft objects, but it looks like it does better at flat walls and floors and things. Is that
Yeah.
how it looks?
Yeah,
It's-
I'm really waiting for a software update on it because I think right now as it is, it's kind of cool, but it's not something that I can really do a lot with for like
Yeah.
game scanning or that kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe
Using
some
the
third-party
structure
app.
software.
I'm not. It's got its own. I'm not sure. I can't even remember what the software is called, but it reminds me of that. It's very much like that.
Because
The
it's
structure
just
software
announced-
kind of just felt like it was like a demo of, hey, here's a cool thing, and someone else will make a better one, and then no one ever did.
It's a small market.
Well, structure that same software is now available using the LiDAR hardware.
Oh, so
They just
the
announced
one they
it,
tried to sell people
last
was
week.
called Scanect, SKANECT, I think.
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the
I
one
don't
I
know
use.
if that's it.
Okay. Right. Yeah, and then obviously the other big news was Oculus Go is getting retired, so that's why Tom wore one in honor with his one arm.
All right.
Pivots from the elbow. Does it look? How does the screen look, Tom? How's the text on the screen in the Go? Okay. You might be muted right now.
It's I can read it, but yeah, it's kind of jittery and
Yeah,
not ideal, but I can still read it.
there is a setting. I don't know how risky it is for you. It might crash you, but then you can come back. If you go to your triangle menu, this applies to everybody on Quest or Go. If you haven't already done this, triangle menu, settings, display, and then the in-world render scale. On Quest, I can do 1.6, and 1.8 crashes it. So I don't know what it would be on Go, but if you crash, you can come
Try
back
it.
in,
Sure.
or you
It
can
looks
just
a
move
lot
closer. Yeah, you can move closer, which is what I did during the Microsoft conference. Just stood in the front row, off to the corner. But okay, well, I'm trying to think. Was there any other big news? Oh, along with the Go getting officially retired, they said there's going to be a new distribution channel for Quest. So a lot of us here use SideQuest because it's super handy and there's a lot of wonderful stuff on it. And Oculus is very restrictive what they let in their official store. So they, along with this announcement, they said there's going to be a new channel for Quest in 2021. And some of
That's
the
mostly a reaction to having 350,000 developers that aren't really developers signed up
Yes.
for their.
exactly. Yeah.
I just
So the
cranked
side
it up to
loading,
just cranked it up to 1.6, and it looks much better. So thanks for
and
the.
you didn't crash. That's good.
No,
Yeah, I think the risk is running out of memory, so maybe a different custom world might crash it. But cool.
okay.
Yeah,
Try that
exactly.
later.
So the SideQuest requires you to create a developer account at Oculus to be able to sideload software, and so it's gotten really popular, and a bunch of non-developers are doing it. Is that the official number or semi-official?
I assume it's a lot. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
entire audience of SideQuest, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And some of
So
them
this-
are obviously legitimately developers, but there are a ton of people who are going. I know from even just at my work that everyone has a Quest. You know, probably 50% of the people are not developers. So,
Yep.
and all those people are signed up as a developer to be able to sideload apps. So it's
Yep.
kind of-
It's super popular. Yeah, so the word on the street is, not officially, but this will be a distribution channel that doesn't let you search in the store. It's more like, work directly with the developer or something to get a access code kind of a thing.
I think, or you
For like
could. I
Steam
think
key.
they were saying that it will work well with SideQuest, where instead of having to go through the rigmarole. You can literally just have a link on SideQuest, essentially, you can click on, and then it will transfer the app onto the device. So it would open it up for third-party curation, essentially, which is what SideQuest basically is.
Well, that's an interesting idea, yeah. And you got to wonder why they want other people to do it. There's probably a legal reason they don't want to do it themselves.
Maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting to have that kind of more official.
But then in theory, you could just have a link on your website that allows people just to download it and install it on the device too. So
what's a big problem? Like legitimate apps that are from big publishers until they're in the store. Not big, but there's some of the other social VR apps. They're like, yeah, do this and this and this and this, and then email us, and then we'll send you a thing to get in our developer channel. And it's ridiculous. But okay, well, we can probably get rolling here, Scott, if you want to start typing in VR. Oh, you got a real keyboard now. You can cut and paste. Are you allowed on the stage? How about now?
Good question. Let me switch headsets quick though. It seemed to have charged quite a bit, so I'll just do that.
Oh yeah, all right. So the control in here is called toggle stage blocker, and the choices are blue or black. So which is toggle on and which is toggle off? Gives me phrase like that.
Guessing the blue is on.
What happens if you guys try to bum rush the stage with the teleport? Can you get up there? Yep. So it's off. We're all responsible. We can handle this. That was another one of the tricky bits in the Microsoft conference when audio was challenging for some people. They're like, click on me and just message me your question. And then they would stand up here inside the stage blocker so nobody could click on them. And you couldn't click on them to tell them because you were muted. So they just stood there and they're like, I guess there's no questions. It's really frustrating.
And that was the Microsoft people, so they should have known better.
Yeah, there was a disconnect on the first day, there was a disconnect between their AltSpace people and the conference content people.
Yeah.
And it was weird too because they built this conference was at the end of the giant build conference, the 4-day one, and then there's 2 days at the end for mixed reality. So some of the content was shown at both, so it was all pre-recorded. That doesn't work super good in AltSpace. But
the Apple stuff was all pre-recorded too.
Yeah. I think if you're on a 2D monitor, you get what you expect. It's just in here you don't.
Yeah.
Let's see, we got Scott up here. I'm going to make him louder. I'm going to make some of you less loud. Let's see if I can do it.
Oh. Doesn't let me pull up the URL bar.
Is it covered up?
Yeah, it shows up behind the screen.
I had this problem earlier. If you look on the far right, there's a house. Far right. And you hover it or click it, you'll get the bar back. Did that work?
Okay, there we go. Yep, that worked.
It's all polished, guys. It works just great. Let's see the menu here. I can't tell who's loud. What's this button do? That's mine. I guess if I made you loud, make yourself less loud, because I can't see. Oh yeah, I can. It's a blue icon. So I made Tom loud. I'm going to make him less loud. I can't. Ooh, I muted him. Oh, man.
I see slides.
Waiting for presenter, retrying in
Tom Anderson. Okay, you're back. Good. All right. And now I'm going to make... this is easy, guys. It's fun. I'm not frustrated. I'm going to make Scott Lembcke megaphony. Oh, I can't. Scott, you have to do it to yourself because you're a host. On your host tools, there's a megaphone. Host tools on your lower. Yep.
I can hear you.
Let me get out of here.
God.
Should be presenting.
I see a slide. It says Pico Neo 2.
It also
I
says
see waiting for
waiting
presenter for a second.
retrying.
Yeah,
I
I've
do
never
see
had
that
this
as well.
part not work.
There we go.
Oh, maybe that's working.
That
It
went away.
changed.
Still see the slide, but it's not. There you go.
Yay!
That's why we just
Yay.
changed the
There we
slide.
go. I suppose I'll go over here. Hello.
Hello.
Greetings.
Okay, so I'm Scott Lembcke from a company called Howling Moon Software with myself and Andy Korth over there in the back row. So lately we've been working with the Pico Neo 2. It's a new Android-based headset. And Zach asked if we wanted to share our experience with it, which we did not, but he had leverage on us, and there's some blackmail involved. Anyone who's presented for Zach kind of knows. So we agreed to do it. And so lately, we've been working with a group called FireflyVR. Wrong thing in focus. And it consists of ourselves, Big Island Productions, Graphics Interactive, and a couple other people like I don't know if people know Alexander Cooney from the local scene here. He's been doing our art, and as you can see, it's very pretty. So, kind of one of the main focuses of this Firefly VR company is that we are working on games for good. So stuff that's like educational or like helpful to people that tries to actually improve people's lives. And as such, we've been building a lot of health industry and academic contacts. And as a result of that, we have been working on some product or experiences to help along with things like guided meditation, brain training, like stress resiliency, that sort of thing. And it's been kind of a neat project because we get to hook people up to like a bunch of biosensors and record stuff that they do. And then someone who knows statistics gets to process the data and see if it's working or not and tell us how to improve it. At least that's the theory. And the eventual plan was this would be like products people take home. They might be prescribed by a therapist or something like that to try certain experiences because they'd be helpful for them. So they get like a standalone headset that they take home and be able to do it on a self-guided basis. But before we started developing for those standalone experiences, we needed to do more like experimental testing. And so we've been developing on SteamVR on the desktop, and that was the plan for doing the experimental trials was on the desktop and have another computer potentially that records bio data and stuff like that we want. Unfortunately, right as we were about to start doing more of that testing, the pandemic happened. And so unfortunately, we sort of had to step up our plans to do versions for standalone headsets so that people would take it home and we could actually do some of the experimental testing that way. So that's kind of why we started looking at the Pico as kind of the only other option along with Quest. So that's kind of where we are now. We've been developing those experiences on the Pico so we can actually get some of the testing done. And while the details of the actual experiences are NDA'd, I was able to get some permission to do some screenshots of them so you can see that it's kind of pretty at least. And yeah. So
do you want us to interrupt you with questions as you're going?
Sure.
So if you wouldn't mind repeating them, it'll be quiet based on how far away people are from each other.
Let's see. Anyway, was there a question or?
I was curious. It's probably coming up later, but what is the OS? Is just some version of Android?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much stock Android with some extra libraries and stuff on it. It's not exactly clear what its particular particularly different about it.
Is
there a
Daydream stuff?
I don't think so. So it doesn't use any of the Daydream SDKs. Having never really looked into Daydream, I can't imagine it's using any of that. It seems like it's their own compositor, their own SDK for doing hand tracking and stuff like that.
Okay.
So as far as I know, it doesn't really use any of the Android VR stuff. It's just built on top of Android like Quest is. But anyway, so when we started looking at what hardware to use, like the Quest was sort of the obvious answer. Like we could use the Quest, but it's made by Facebook, which doesn't necessarily make for a good deal. They had at that time they had announced that there's going to be like the business edition of it, where that was going to be like $1,000 or something. I think is what they've just started shipping those, right?
Yep, we got ours in like March or something.
Yeah, so we considered that was an option, but one of the people we were working with at UHG had gotten access to the Pico Neo at a VR conference and talked to them and was able to get some pre-production hardware that we were able to test on. So it's a lot like the Quest in a lot of ways.
Wasn't the Go made by Pico Neo? Or by the same company?
I have no idea.
I think it was, because they were marketing the Pico in Asia and the Go was in the United States. But
okay, well that maybe lines up. Pico is a Chinese company, I think. They've got they say they have offices in Japan and the U.S. and whatnot, but they're a Chinese company, and for the most part, the Pico devices you can only buy them as a consumer in Asia. They don't have distribution in the West yet. I don't know if there's any reason to believe that'll change, but for the moment, as a consumer, you can only get one of these in Asia. But so it's a lot like the Quest in a lot of ways. It does 6 degree of freedom room scale tracking. It's based on Android, runs on a Snapdragon. But some of the stuff that's nice and kind of different about it is it gives you a 4K display, which looks really nice. It's a 4K LCD display, so it doesn't get that the OLED pen tile pattern that you get in the Quest, where it kind of looks like you're looking through the screen door. It's a faster Snapdragon. It's a 845 instead of an 835, so it supports OpenGLES 3.2, and if you wanted, you could do compute shaders and stuff on it. But kind of feel like that's maybe a bad idea because the GPU is already a little overloaded. Might get to we'll get to that later. But one of the cool things about it is it offers a version that can do eye tracking. It can even do, like the Quest, it can do foveated rendering, but it can do dynamic foveated rendering, so that you can't see the foveated artifacts, basically, because you can't really look at them. If you turn your eye to look at them, it moves them somewhere else. So that's potentially kind of neat. We haven't actually had a chance to try that out, but yeah, and too many things to focus on here. So the other really neat thing about the Pico is the controllers are magnetically tracked. And so they're about the same size as the Oculus Quest controllers. They have basically the same button layout, except the trigger on them isn't analog, it's just a button. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. And it's the magnetic tracking on it works really, really good. As long as it's held within arm distance of you, it seems to be pretty accurate. And my experience with magnetic tracking before was Zach had that one Global Game Jam game that he made with Hydra, and it had lots of problems with drifting, and they had to do a calibration step where you stick your hands next to it, and then after you play for a minute, it was off by a 6 inches or a foot or something. I don't know if that was most people's experience, but I remember it seemed kind of glitchy with the Hydra. Sorry, what?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, versus these, it's kind of auto-magical electromagnetic channel they run on. Other than that, they just work, and it's pretty cool. And so since they're magnetic instead of optical, so if the Quest controllers, if I stick these behind me, I'm assuming something all weird just happened, my hands floated away, maybe. The magnetic controllers, that's not a problem. So that's kind of neat. And lastly, they are rechargeable over USB-C, which is slightly handy because you don't need to have batteries. And the batteries seem to last a long time. At some point, we needed to test like showing battery indicators in our experience. So I'd been using it for like a week without charging them, and it lasted pretty much the whole week. So it's probably like at least 5-6 hours of like usage of the controllers. So seems pretty good.
Seems like magnetic fields would be bad around people that have like pacemakers or something, right? I don't know if it's strong enough to have that interference, but
I don't know. I mean, I've definitely heard like people with pacemakers tell me that that they're not supposed to be around like Wi-Fi and stuff. I don't know if that's true, but
Wi-Fi.
I got to imagine that like the magnetic tracking isn't.
I guess it would depend on what kind of pacemaker it is. Maybe there's some kind of external communication to it or something. I know some of them are they actually use magnetics to turn them on and off. Like that's one of the things that.
I mean, it's got to be one of those things where it's like they don't have good data on if it's safe or not. So the safe thing is to tell you don't do it.
Don't do it.
But on the other hand, it's not like the controller's like it's not like stuff comes flying out of your pockets at them or that anything at all sticks to them magnetically. So I have a hard time imagining it's that.
And obviously the Hydra was magnetic fields, and the STEM system that we never got, but we finally got reimbursed for, was implementing it in the same manner.
Do you notice any latency or?
Yeah, I mean a little bit. It's not maybe quite as snappy as like the Vive controllers, but it seems about as good as like the Quest ones. Entirely subjective, but it works well enough for the games we've made, and you can move them pretty quick, and it keeps up with it. So.
Does your body occlude it at all? Like, does the field go through fine? I mean, it's on your head, I guess.
No, it seems to go through just fine. No problem. Yeah, like the only catch is like once you get about to like arm length away from the headset, it's starting to get a little bit jittery, and by the time you go like a foot more than that, it's pretty bad.
So if you have freakishly long arms, you're kind of screwed then.
Yeah, if you had freakishly long arms, it might get a little weird, but.
Do you know how it does the initialization process on its own without any having to do, the little dance or whatever?
I have no idea. Some webpage I came across said that it's using the blah 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 system by blah blah blah, which people seem to think was a good magnetic tracking system. I don't know. Some Google foo might help with that, but if you wanted to track it down, but whatever it is, it works really good. I was impressed.
That's fascinating. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so, oops, everything's open. So the obvious comparison is to the Oculus Quest. Like, it has a high resolution screen in the Quest. It's got a full 4K panel in it. Unfortunately, the GPU fill rate is only about a time and a half, or like 50% more performance. Yet you have to render about 2.25 times as many pixels. So if you've had like rendering performance problems on the Quest, you're going to have the same problems on this, but even worse if you're trying to render at native resolution. Unfortunately, the refresh rate is basically the same, but you can adjust it. The compositor seems to run at like 140, 150 hertz, somewhere in there, probably some 144 hertz or 150, I don't know. Kind of reverse engineered that accidentally with some of the profiling tools. But you can set it to whatever you want, which is potentially handy. I don't know, can you do that on Quest, set your own refresh rate?
No, it's
72
fixed.
or 60.
Can it? I thought it couldn't do 60. That was locked.
Maybe I'm lying.
The Go could, but the Quest, I thought they locked it. And then I know Carmack was lamenting that it could technically do 90, but they would have to get re-FCC certified, and that would cost too much money, so they decided not to. But
interesting. But yeah, I don't know. We play with that a little bit. Get some of that later. The controller tracking, I guess I already mentioned, is magnetic instead of the camera tracking. Has a little bit more RAM. It weighs a little bit more, but actually, it's something I skipped on a previous slide to mention. Was you can see from the design of it, it's sort of got that like counterweight thing in the back. That's actually where the battery is. So a lot of the weight of the headset is on the back, and it's counterbalanced with the front, which makes it considerably more comfortable. So that's interesting. And even though it's a little bit heavier, I guess I personally find it way more comfortable to wear, especially for more than like half an hour or so. Gosh, does everyone see that giant?
I do.
User profile icon over the top of the text?
Yeah, that's new.
It's fine for me on the Rift
Fine
S.
for me too.
Yeah, that wasn't there like when I tested earlier today.
Yeah.
It's pretty small for me.
On the Quest, it's
Anyway,
covering up
it's covering up a lot of the text for me. Anyway, and as far as like price, it's kind of a weird thing to compare it on since you can only buy it as a business. But like if you're comparing like the 128 gigabytes Quest, it's like a $500 device versus a $700 device. It's better, so it seems like an okay pricing. The $900 like eye tracking one seems like kind of interesting since that's less than the business version of the Quest. So if you're making experiences for fairs or whatever, like a lot of people seem to be making experiences for events. Like seems like it's a pretty good deal actually.
Yeah.
So as a developer, like the SDK for it supports doing native Unity and Unreal. So like if you really want to write your own like C++ or Java VR stuff, that'll work. I can't imagine very many people do it. There's no NDA to sign to get access to it, and it's a free download. You can do it right now if you wanted. Problem, of course, is until you get access to the hardware, it's kind of useless. Like you can try integrating it, but you don't really know if it's working. It's pretty easy to support. Like there's not really much to it. It's pretty basic, but that's also sort of the problem with it since it inevitably doesn't support things like VR interaction framework or VRTK that people like to use. I can't imagine that anyone's bothered to add that to it, and we never really looked because we were developing stuff ourselves using SteamVR because we only have 2 of the headsets available for like 5 of us. So we've mostly been developing on SteamVR and then running it on the Pico separately. So we had to kind of make our own like abstraction layer, and it's kind of a pain. It's yet another SDK to implement that you have to dynamically instantiate prefabs and wrap stuff up in assemblies and conditionally compile things, and kind of annoying, but it is what it is. And it's pretty simple, so it wasn't too hard. So then, as far as performance of it, originally we just left it on the default settings, the default render settings, and which is 2K per eye render textures, running at 75 hertz, 2x multi-sampling, and foveation wasn't enabled. The first scene that we ran on it was like this, like the intro scene that's sort of like the hub that lets you get to all the other experiences you can do in the game. And it was relatively simple. There wasn't a lot of overdraw. We had like a sky sphere instead of a sky box that we were drawing, and then some terrain. And it ran fine. We weren't able to do a lot of good performance testing for a reason I'll get to later. And we weren't using post-processing on this like in the SteamVR version that we'd made before. We'd done lots of post-processing because why not? We're running on PCs. The second scene that we added had like some water in it. And just like the difference of going from like those 2 drawing layers to like the 3 that covers half the screen with 3 layers, oh boy, the performance was not great. We were having problems with it dropping a lot of frames. It would pop up saying it was overheating constantly. And once I found the Snapdragon profiler tools, it was telling us that our simple scene it was running at 70 Celsius, and our complicated scene it was like topping out at 80 and starting to throttle everything. So that wasn't good. We spent a bunch of time trying to like profile with like Unity and stuff first to iron out some of our CPU performance problems, and then it didn't really fix anything. It made it a little bit smoother so it wasn't dropping so many frames, but we were still running at like, I want to say like 65 or 60 frames a second or something like that, and it was really choppy because even though you can pick what refresh rate you want, it still like holds you to that. So it's not like dynamically presenting them to the compositor at whatever rate they come in. So what we ended up doing in our experience was we dropped the resolution to 1536 by 1280, which roughly halves the number of pixels that we needed to draw. We dropped it to 60, and that helped a lot. We dropped it to 60 hertz just to like smooth over some of our CPU hiccups, since we didn't want to. In the short term, we wanted to have some time to like fix some of our CPU problems. And that helped a lot. At that point, it was much smoother. So we were able to bump up the anti-aliasing a bunch, make it render a little nicer. And then we also noticed that, oh, hey, right, it supports foveation and it wasn't turned on, so we turned that on. On low, basically couldn't even tell that it was turned on, so we cranked it all the way up to high, and it's much less noticeable than it is in the Quest. So we didn't really get performance numbers to see how much it helped, but since it was barely noticeable, we just left it on high. We also reduced some of the overdraw in our scenes, so we made sure that we manually set rendering orders of like the terrain and skybox and our water layer and stuff, so that it would render them front to back. Because before there are all these like giant meshes that are centered on the world origin, and it was sort of random which one it decided to pick. So that was less than ideal. Also additionally, we were using their universal render pipeline for this, and we along with the shadercraft stuff. So we weren't using physically based shaders. They're relatively simple, stylized ones, kind of like you saw from the screenshots at the beginning. And so at some point I like pulled out the compiled code for those to see how complicated it was, and that was clearly not the problem. So our shaders were all pretty simple. It was really just it couldn't render that many pixels. But after changing the render,
do you know if you were in your initial demo where you were getting the overheating and whatever? Do you know if when you said it was when you added the water? Do you know if that was causing a second resolve, and if that was?
It was not.
Okay, so it's just the overdraw and. It
was just the overdraw from it. So, as a result, after doing that stuff, we basically lowered the temperature the core was running at by like 20 Celsius.
And I think on the Quest, the iBuffer defaults to 1024 by 1024 per eye.
Really?
So this is pretty significantly higher. Like if doing 2K per eye is pretty crazy compared to.
Yeah, especially when the fill rate just isn't that much higher than you have available on the Quest. But I mean, this is still about the same resolution as the Valve Index, which I don't know. I think it looks pretty good, especially with the LCD screen, and it doesn't have like the screen door effect. It still looks really good. But like the text we had in this stuff wasn't quite as crisp, but still perfectly readable. And so turning up the anti-aliasing made everything a little bit nicer too. There's less swimming pixels and aliasing. And most importantly, there was no more throttling. So, the fans go wild, or in this case, they didn't go wild, which is good.
Do you have any control over, like, the clock speeds that the GPU and the CPU run at on the Pico Neo?
Sort of. You can kind of set... I mean, it's got that... It's got a numeration that you can set where you have like balanced performance, battery, longest battery, and high performance, like you do on like a laptop or something like that. That's pretty much it. And in our case, it didn't really seem like it would help us because we were already overheating. We couldn't, go faster to try and solve the problem.
True.
Yeah, and the other problem
on the Quest through the Oculus API, there are separate settings for the GPU and the CPU based clock speed. Like default is it'll just auto run and it'll pick whatever it thinks is the best, but you can like override that, and it has a recommended range, but you can like set it way higher, and like you can boost the GPU performance on the Quest by like 60%, more than stock. It probably will melt at some point, but. So I was just curious since they're Snapdragon based, I was just curious if there was a similar.
I mean, possibly if you dig around like the Android APIs, maybe you can still access that. But from the Pico provided APIs,
you can set it via an Android setting over the command line tool, as well as setting it through the Oculus API through ADB. So I was curious.
Yeah, I mean, like I said though, like in our case, we were already overheating, and it was like giving us prompts that pop up in the middle of this display that was like, "Your device is overheating. You should take a break." It's like, oh, this isn't good.
You have the equivalent for the Oculus Time Warp or the reprojection that Steam gives?
Yes. Forget if I mentioned that or not. But yeah, it appears that the compositor runs at like 150 hertz, and it's doing reprojection all the time. So even like when we reduce the frame rate to 60 hertz, it still looks smooth to look around and everything. And stuff moving still looked smooth because we weren't dropping frames, at least. Like going from 75 to 40, whatever, and 75 to 40, and because that made stuff like moving stuff around, it made it look really choppy, and yeah, it wasn't great. But then dropping it to 60 kind of solved our CPU problems for now until we have time to like better optimize that, so we don't have spiky frames that every once in a while take longer to render. So that was good. Anyway, I think I covered everything on this before the questions. So, I mean, overall, like the good stuff about the headset is that the 4K display in it is really nice. Like, it looks good. It looks clearer than like the Valve Index, and like the Index, it's an LCD, so you don't get like the screen door on it so much. The inside-out tracking seems to work just great. Subjectively, I would say it's like about as good as the Quest. I've not particularly had any problems with it, but I've never tried like going outside with it or like realistically leaving a 10-foot radius from my computer, since that's where it's been used all the time. So I haven't really stress tested if it works quite as well. The magnetic tracking controllers work really, really good, like surprisingly well. We were at first kind of expecting maybe they'd be really wobbly and like they wouldn't have quite the precision that you did with optical tracking or like the lighthouse tracking. But they does not seem to be a problem. The counterbalance design makes it really comfortable to wear for extended periods of time without really like cutting into the back of your head or like leaning your head forward. And also, since this is like aimed at businesses, I guess this is maybe even a plus that the human-facing bits on the headset, like the around the eyes and the back of it, are all like the latex foam covered with TPE plastic or whatever it is, so it's like easily washable. So if you were doing it for an event and you needed to wash it down between each person, like that'd be easy to do, just wipe it down. Some of the bad stuff about it. The SDK is not as stable as it could be. There's like a bunch of functions in it that just didn't work. Like, for instance, like there's a function to get the battery level on it. It doesn't take any parameters. There's no special setup. You're just supposed to call it, and it gives you a float that's 0 to 1 that gives you the battery percentage. It just crashes. Fortunately, for a lot of the stuff that was glitchy, we found ways around it easily. Like Unity, you can do system.battery level or something like that. And that seems to work just fine. It gives us the exact same information in one line of code. It doesn't support Vulkan. The GPU supports Vulkan, but the compositor or something with the rendering does not. So it seems like that'd be a plus since it supports it, and you're on mobile where you have limited CPU available. Rendering with Vulkan would reduce your CPU usage, and that would be great. It's a little weird that it's only available to businesses. Like I said, it's completely unclear if maybe they just need to work out distribution with someone, or no idea. It's not information they seem to be sharing with anyone. Another weird thing is it doesn't seem to have an IPD adjustment, but it also doesn't really seem to matter so much. I don't know if it's something fancy about where the optics work, but like if you shift the headset back and forth, it really doesn't cause the display doesn't really get blurry so much on other devices. So I don't know if they did something fancy with that. And it says it supports 55 to 70, 100. Boy, I don't remember what the numbers were. There's a range that said that it's supported, but it doesn't have an adjustment for it. Although it
just has a large sweet spot.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. And it does mention something about like dynamic FOV adjustments in the documentation, and it's completely unclear what that is.
You could think
maybe
with the eye tracking version they could do
right. And that's kind of what we thought. Like on the eye tracking version, maybe it detects that and does something automagically for you. But
yeah,
that's unclear. Oh, actually, that's something I forgot to bring up. We have one Neo 2 and one Neo 2i. The eye tracking, we've not been able to use it yet because the configuration utility for it has so far not worked, and I've been waiting to hear back from Pico for like a month about.
Does it require a third-party eye tracking library like Toby or anything like that?
Yeah, it's based on Toby eye tracking, and they have a calibration utility that your APK you're supposed to call it to calibrate the eye tracking, and it didn't work for us, and we contacted them. And
that's the same library that the Vive Pro Eye uses. They use Toby eye tracking also.
Yes, it's a different library though. Like
for a different hardware.
The Vive Pro Eye, it's like SR Anipal or something like that. We sort of joke that it's Senior Anipal and Seranipal, and we're not quite sure like what it's supposed to be called, but it doesn't use that same library. But we do have a Vive Pro Eye as well that we've used for some stuff. But yeah, so we've not actually been able to test out any of the eye tracking stuff. We have the hardware for it, so technically hasn't been released yet. So it's not like they're missing the boat on that, but it is what it is, I guess. And then there's some bad stuff about the headsets. Like I said, the GPU seems really underpowered to drive the display they put in it. It's this big, beautiful display that you just can't use unless you have a really simple scene. And yeah, like even with simple shaders with basically no overdraw, no post-processing, no buffer resolves that we had to have happen, it was barely able to run it at full resolution.
In theory, the eye tracking and foveated rendering would work to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, we could turn on foveated rendering again and run it at full resolution to see how much that helps. At the moment, we just sort of push that all down a bit because the other problem when we were running it at like full blast like that and it was overheating is the battery did not last very long. Like it was getting maybe 40, 50 minutes of battery life when it was running that hot. And it seems to be a lot more now that we've toned that back, but we haven't really done a lot of stress testing. I'm not actually sure what the battery life is up to now. Actually, I think that's something I missed on the last one. This is something that like Nick and I seem to agree. Nick Miller has the other headset. He's been able to charge it while like using it, whereas I have not. Like if I use it too much, I have to let it sit for a while to charge back up. It helps to leave it plugged in where it doesn't lose battery so fast. And I for like most of the time I've been developing with it, I have it plugged into like an external battery pack so that it'll last an entire day. But you can't use it for too much in one sitting or the battery goes dead too. So that was kind of annoying. But more on like the ugly list. I don't know what other people's experience are developing VR stuff using Unity on Android. Is like debugging is just sort of awful. Like debugging with Unity is kind of limited. Debugging like deployed stuff is kind of more limited. Debugging deployed stuff on Android is limited to the point where it seems not worth it to me. And debugging deployed Unity products on a VR Android headset basically seems like a lost cause. Like it was awful. It was a lot of change a line, rebuilds, re-upload. 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, you finally relaunch it, re-getting the logs using Logcat. Very frustrating. And to top that off, we had a lot of problems with a few people on our team. Were really excited about like, ooh, this is the point where we can upgrade to the latest Unity and do all that. Since we were sort of starting a fresh project and pulling our old code in. And a bunch of us were like, no, let's not upgrade. What we were doing was working fine. And after a while, we got to the point where we could start testing on the Pico because we had the hardware available. And it was crashing. Like it would run for about a minute, and then it would just hard crash. And digging through like the logs, we were finding out that it was running out of memory. And so after doing a bunch of like more sleuthing, like the conclusion we came to was something about turning on the controllers causes something to happen that causes it to run out of memory very quickly. And if you don't turn the controllers on, it still runs out of memory eventually, but it just takes a couple minutes, like 10, 15 minutes instead. But if you turn the controllers on after a minute, like every time, 30 seconds to a minute, it would crash. It would run out of memory. So like we back and forth with Pico. They finally, figure out that, oh, you guys are on 2019.3. Oh, well, we don't support that. At which point we'd already made enough new content because the artist was really excited about using the new shader graph stuff and upgrading some of the new features, and we didn't really want to try and backport a bunch of that if we didn't have to, so we were waiting a little bit, hoping they'd release a new version of the SDK. And at some point they told us, oh, well, it works now with 2019.3.10, which it didn't, and there's some back and forth. And then eventually they told us, well, actually it works with 2019.3.6. And that actually did work. So that's the version we've been using, and it's been fine since then, but it was like literally weeks of wasted effort trying to figure out like what is wrong and making minimal duplication projects, and it was a lot of wasted time because the SDK wasn't done, like Unity support wasn't done. They were saying, well, this is a Unity bug that Unity needs to fix it, and yeah, so that was very frustrating. But it was also a pre-release headset, so it's pre-release hardware. Like, how much can you be upset that the software doesn't work? It's hard to say. So, and I suppose that pretty much wraps up our experience with it. Was there any extra questions about the hardware or the SDK that people had?
So it sounds like you can't even play demos of eye tracking. It just straight up's not calibrating.
Well, there are no demos of the eye tracking other than the calibration utility, really, and that didn't work. So we've never seen the eye tracking work. We assume it works because like the Tobii stuff seems to be high quality and seems to work everywhere else, but never seen it work with the Pico, I guess.
I made an example that kind of worked, basically without the calibration. If you don't run the calibration tool, that kind of works, and you get eye tracking on like the top half of the display, kind of, and that kind of worked. I don't know if you get eye openness, pupil diameter, stuff like that. I don't know if those worked at all.
I wonder if it's maybe like an issue where the software, it's not for Android, it's not done yet, so it just doesn't quite work.
We got a couple different APKs that were supposed to work to do the calibration, and at some point I had it like run a little while and then crash and stuff like that. The calibration tool is written in Unity also. So.
It's probably written in 2019.3.10 or something. So,
right?
So you guys are sticking with it though, and just waiting for it to mature.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Does anyone know of any other headsets that are even options, really? Like, we kind of looked around a bit, and there's like Quest and some bad options, and the Pico seemed good to just pre-release. So,
Yeah, I mean, in demos, people love the Pico and the eye tracking. So there is.
Yeah, I mean, the hardware is.
Sorry, I was going to ask if you have any information about when it might be actually released. Like, is that
there was a press release about that like a week ago that I saw, and I forget what the date was. I suppose I probably should have looked that up since I did a presentation on the Pico, but soon, I think.
All right.
Yeah, I think I saw that press release. I don't remember the date, but it was like looming.
Yeah, it was pretty soon.
And have you guys experimented with Quest or any other Android? Or it's just not an option?
Not really. The Facebook connection, I think, was the big thing that killed it. And just we needed... Yeah, I think that was the main thing that got it turned down in discussions. And the Pico's slightly cheaper and seems more capable. We may have had a better experience developing for the Quest, though. Like, that alone probably would have been worth it, and like it being more expensive, we would have eaten that cost from development. But
yeah. Okay. Well, any final questions, or we can move on to socializing? So is that a question, or is Andy's just slipping out?
Yeah. So
Oh, it's just like that in my hand.
protocol here is the little emoji symbol next to your triangle menu for your favorite emojis. And those little popping sounds, that's the roar of the audience applauding you. In VR, it's very disconcerting. I should get louder here. Hang on. Cool.
You should get a
Second
soundboard,
bow.
Zach. Then you could have some crowd clapping noises.
Just pipe it through my microphone. Yeah, that would actually work pretty good. If I was
A
on
really odd
Amplify.
experience this weekend. I watched a professional soccer game on TV.
Oh,
Doing this thing where there's nobody in the stands. Stands are totally.
Or cardboard people in stands.
Or they had covers over the stands with people painted on them, but they were playing like a video game cheering on the television. And they were, and at the beginning they say, now we're going to be playing, artificial crowd noise. Just as if you don't want to hear the artificial crowd noise, go and watch it on, on the streaming on the computer. But it was very odd, just sort of, it was like playing a video game. It was, hand cheering.
I think we're going to go on a custom world tour again. Did anybody have a favorite from last month that you want to start out in? We got the bar rooftop. That's a quick load, depending on what terrible. Oh yeah. So before we go into any custom rooms, everybody needs to understand how to control sound in those rooms. If we were playing a video behind us, you'd get an extra control next to your triangle menu that'll let you personally control the audio level of that video or even turn off that video. You can do it by clicking on the big screen, but it's often easier just to use this little circle that appears on your alt space triangle menu. And some of the places we go might be perfectly fine, and then some smart guy shows up and puts the favorite noise. We aren't able to control it because it's not our room. Should we start with the bar rooftop? Does that sound good?
Sure.
So Zach, is this where you turn into a port key and we all latch on?
Yeah. So if we get separated, just make sure that if you're not a friend with me, I'm adding Tom here.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to click on me and add me as a friend, or anybody in the room really, but I'm the center of attention here. If we get separated, you can always use the friends menu to go to that place. So you can follow your friends around in alt space. If that makes sense. And I'm going to open a portal, and we'll all try to go through at the same time, which is the cool looking way to do it.
And people like Andy haven't done it a lot. You point at the portal and hit your trigger.
Yeah.
You get to join the cult.
Yeah, let's give this a shot. Featured worlds. No. My favorites.
Exactly like the last 4 times, my headset just said, you're out of power.
Yeah, if you're on your Quest or whatever, plug it in quick.
Sorry about bouncing around here.
Okay, so here's a portal.
It is charged now.
Anyway, everybody should click on it, and you get a little tracer line.
There we go.
We got Brock died over there. Brock, are you here? Brock, no. If he comes to, he'll find us. He's done this before. And I think Scott will be able to find us. I trust in him.
It's Brooklyn.
Yeah, so.
Rooftop.
Yep. Are we bringing along the cameraman, Marty, or are you shutting him down? Where's Marty?
We lost Marty too, I think.
He was just here a second ago.
There's somebody's hand over there. I think it's Brock's hand. Okay, we'll go to the rooftop now, and they can try to catch up. Here we go.